am. And I listened to Jim's message last week, and I was really blessed. He did an excellent job of showing us from the scriptures the contrast between the lives of Abraham and Lot. Abraham lived by faith. He built altars and he worshiped and he humbled himself before the Lord. And when the time came for the two of them to part ways because there wasn't enough resources for all of them and their families, Abraham deferred to Lot and gave him the first choice. He gave kindness, extended that, and he trusted God with provision for his own animals. Lot, though, made a decision that I think may have been based a little bit different. It may have been based on what he saw with his eyes. Comfort, profit, provision. And he went. And today we're going to see kind of oftentimes what can happen if we make decisions based on what we see and feel in this world instead of on what God would have for us. And today we're going to be looking, ironically, on the 5th of July, at a battle over the freedom of an individual. And that is Lot, who gets taken captive. And we're going to pick up kind of mid-story here, and then I'm going to fill in some gaps, okay? Because this is kind of the main point of what happens in this little run here. It says, 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food, and then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. Now that sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? Some raiding kings come through, but let's fill in the gaps a little bit here in this story. Hopefully you can see this map. It's not giant. If I look through the right portion of my glasses, I can see it actually too. But what happened is there was 4 kings that came down from the north, from Mesopotamia. The main king's name was Chedorlaomer. Okay, that's not from the Tillamook factory. That's actually his name. Okay, and what he was doing was he was requiring tribute or taxes from everyone down in the region where Lot lived. And it had been going on for some time, 12 to 13 years. And these cities, Sodom, Gomorrah, and 3 others, decided, hey, we're not paying those taxes anymore. We're done with this. You're not the boss of us. And Chedorlaomer and 3 other kings decided, oh yeah, we are the boss of you. As a matter of fact, we're going to come show you that. And they came down on the right of the Sea of Galilee, on the east, and of the Dead Sea, raiding towns and villages their whole way. They went all the way down to the desert. And when they got to where there was no more people because there was desert, they turned back around and headed back north to the west of the Dead Sea, the bottom lake that you see there on the map. And right about there is where the forces of Sodom and Gomorrah and these other cities met them. 5 kings of these other cities came out to meet them in battle. And somewhere along the way, it doesn't define for us whether Lot and his family were taken on the way down or if it was in the battle. I would assume it was probably in this battle. 4 kings from the north coming back north, 5 kings from the cities. They come together in the valley of Siddim, which is probably a dry lake bed at the bottom end of the Dead Sea. Nice open area, good place for a battle. You can see everything that's going on. And they have this fight, and the 4 kings win, and Lot is taken captive, and the 4 kings head north, back towards where they came from, probably thinking, that was nice. We didn't get taxes, but we got everything they had, and that will work. The story goes on, though it doesn't end there. It says, a man who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. Now Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre, the Amorite, a brother of Eshcol and Aner, all of who were allied with Abram. So someone got away from this battle. Now Lot was kind of a stranger in this place, Sodom. He hadn't been there that long. And I'm guessing it was probably a member of even his own household or group that got away, because who else would know to go tell Abram, hey, they got your nephew? And so probably it's someone close to him. So that's the first thing I would say is the Lord provided someone to get the information to Abram, the information that he would need in order to respond the way that God would want. And we have the great trees of Mamre. He was the chief king. He's listed first there, and you can see the trees are even named after him. And so that's how you know he's the chief king in this group. But he had an alliance with Abram, and so did the others. And this is kind of the way these alliances worked. You got a little like maybe group of people over here, and they have this leader person. Maybe he's a king or a chief of a village or whatever it is. And you got another one over here, and then maybe another one over here, and then maybe another one over here. But by themselves, none of them could fend off maybe a very big army or attacking group. But if they commit to each other and say, hey, if someone attacks you, we're coming, don't worry. And they come together to protect and defend each other, they can fend off a much larger attack. And so it was perfectly normal to have allies. That's why the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah went together. That's why it was 4 kings that came out of the north. And what we're going to see today is Abram and allies would go after Lot, who had been captured. It says, when Abram heard this, that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Dan is not a person standing by the Sea of Galilee. It's a town up near there. And that's how far they went in pursuit. And what we have in this is we have a physical response and a physical situation here. A physical battle that is going to take place. But we know that the scriptures are given primarily for our spiritual growth, development, and maturity and understanding. And there are physical benefits, relational benefits, of course, that relate to the spiritual. But what I want to do today is I want to look at the spiritual principles that we can gain from Abraham's response in this physical war situation. Because I think it might challenge us a little bit in our faith. I know it does me. And a couple things just to clarify for anyone who's here who may not understand this. And this became really clear to Lot and to everyone else. And it's true for us spiritually. Whether you realize it or not, there is a spiritual battle that is constantly being fought in you, around you, and over you. The scriptures make this clear. As Christians, we're told in Ephesians that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, and against the powers of this dark world, and against the forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And that's why, after that, we are instructed to put on the full armor of God. You don't wear armor unless you're going into battle, and we're directed to wear it every day as Christians. That should help us understand that we are in a battle non-stop. Non-stop, it never ends. And the second thing to remember about this battle that we are in every day, is that whether you like it or not, someone you love, someone you care about, will be caught up in this battle. They may be captive, they may wander off. It's going to happen. They're going to come under the influence or power of the enemy at times. This happens, right? People are lost. Sheep get separated. Jesus went after the one. We look at Abram's response here, and he calls 318 trained men. What a great picture of, if you're going to fight a battle, you can't do it alone. So God made this crazy, amazing thing called the church. And it's this weird, beautiful mess that we get to experience as we do life together in the battle. But Abram was smart enough to know that he couldn't go it alone. Wouldn't it be amazing right now for us as a church if our brother or sister fell into captivity of some kind? Maybe it's something they chose for themselves, some sort of sin. Maybe it's calamity, part of just living in this world, something bad that happened. And it was like all the women in the church, maybe it was a gal that it happened to, and all the ladies in the church got together and said, come on, we're going over to so-and-so's house and we're staying with her until it's good again, until she's right again. We're going to pray with her, we're going to worship with her, we're going to share scripture with her, we're going to make sure she knows we love her and that we're coming after her no matter what. Boy, that'd freak out the neighbors, wouldn't it? They're like, I don't want any. I don't need. It'd be weird, wouldn't it? And yet that's really kind of what is going on here. It's a picture for us of what the church should be like. It really is. I was thinking about This man who God has had on my heart, who's just struggled and struggled in his battle with addiction. And just how crazy it would be if we as guys, 40 or 50 of us, just gathered up and went over to his place and said, listen, I know you're struggling. We're not going to leave you alone for the next week. You're stuck with us and you're stuck with God's word because God wants to rescue you and there's no other way out. Boy, that'd grab people's attention, wouldn't it? That's what's going on here. I want to be clear. This is a physical battle that is spiritual. But it's a model for us that I think we can gain much insight into. And the biggest decision that Abram had to make, it's the same one that we have to make. Will I enter the battle? Will I pursue? That's where it starts. Or am I going to sit back? Am I going to watch it just happen? Watch people be taken captive, people I love, people I care about, my family. Now, I want to be clear, we can't win this battle on our own. We just sung a bunch of songs about the spiritual work that Jesus did for us. We cannot win any victories in our life or anyone else's. The battle belongs to the Lord. The battle belongs to the Lord, but we are His, and He calls us to be part of the process. So it says, during the night, Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. All right, so the first decision he makes, I'm going. Now, I don't know when the plan came together that we see acted out here, but we kind of see a plan, don't we? It says, Abram divided his men, and they attacked at night. Those are strategies. If you are greatly outnumbered and greatly outmatched, you come up with strategy because you can't just go face to face. All right, everyone get around them. We'll get on all sides. We'll act like there's millions of us. We'll make a lot of noise. We'll come at them hard. Hopefully we cause confusion and just scare them, and they run out of there because it's nighttime and they're not expecting it. Right, there's a strategy here. Something has been thought through. And I don't know when God gave them the plan. I don't know. It could have been like, we're going, and they got there, and it was nighttime. They're like, well, we're here. Let's just do this. You guys go that way. You guys go that way. But it's still a plan of sorts. There's strategy that we see here. And I love this. I love this. That even though outmatched, there's no delay in attack. It happens. With a portion of faith, a good measure of courage, and most importantly, an unstoppable God, we too can experience great victories in the spiritual battle that we live in, just like Abraham did in this spiritual battle. We live in a spiritual war. How we respond when people we love have been influenced or taken captive is important. We don't see apathy here. We don't see inaction. We don't see paralysis in fear. We see, that's my family, I'm going, and I'm attacking. Selflessness, risk. What had prepared him for this? We talked about it already. The whole 13th chapter, we see Abram bowing down and worshiping, building altars, glorifying God, doing God things the way God says. And his heart was ready when calamity and emergency came to respond the correct way. This is true for us. I love this too. The enemy always seems to get overconfident. They got who they got. They're headed north. They're probably sitting by the campfire. Oh, what a great year we had. All those people, we got all their stuff. They're headed back home thinking they're just out of there just like that, you know, almost ready to just break loose from this region. And then there's God's people just like that. And the battle that was won, supposedly, is lost. I mean, isn't that a picture of the 3 days of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus? You know the devil had to be going, he's dead. It didn't work. The plan did not work. And then Jesus rises on Sunday, and it's like, oh man, that wrecked everything. That wrecked everything. But faith was required. God's work was required. And for us to have the benefit of that work, we have to believe and trust God for it. I want to make it really clear. In the coming verses, next week, Jim will cover it, probably. I hope. Jim, I'm not trying to put you in a box here, friend. There's a king who shows up, a messenger from God, and he looks right at Abram and he says, God delivered your enemy into your hands. To make it clear that it was God who won the victory and not Abram. Abram trusted. Abram believed. Abram acted. God won the victory. Okay, there's a picture of the battle. Physical battle, spiritual battle. Similarities. Here's the result. He recovered all the goods, brought back his relative Lot and his possessions together with the women and the other people. It's beautiful. They recover just about everything. They bring them back. We live in a spiritual battle. If you walk out the door not realizing this, you will be overwhelmed by sin and calamity in a very short amount of time. At some point, someone you love will be captive, and you will be challenged with whether or not you will respond. Will you pursue? Will you engage in the battle? This is the Christian life. Number 3, the most important thing, God specializes in recovery and redemption. It's who He is and what He does, and we can believe Him for it with the people that we love and care about. So I just want to ask you this question today. Who in your life needs help? When we started this and we started talking about Lot, I don't know about you, but when I started reading this, I started thinking about someone right away. And I thought, man, that guy is a lot like Lot right now. And he could really use Jesus. But then I started to feel convicted, like, is that it, Aaron? Is that all you got? Pity? It's interesting to me, we're so intentional about just about everything in our lives. We're intentional about our financial planning. We're intentional about our vacation days. Like, they are booked like from beginning to end every minute, right? We got a plan. I know some of you, your gardens, there's blueprints somewhere in your house because you had a plan for the squash over here and the onions over here. I know it. Okay, we are so intentional. And yet this thing called sharing the gospel that God has given us to do, one of the most important things that we have in our life, how could we be so unintentional in our approach to it when we are so intentional with everything else that matters so much less? As I was thinking about this intentionality, I was reminded back to 23 years ago. And I've shared this with some of you before. And if you've heard about this before from me and you're like, Aaron, don't tell me the same old stuff. Stick with me here, okay? I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a repeat. But this is what God brought to my mind. I've been thinking a lot about my parents lately with the recent passing of my mom. And 23 years ago, God put my parents on my heart. They needed Jesus. But when we got together and we talked, it kind of wasn't really going the way I'd hoped. And I just really was begging God to work in their lives. And so I was asking God, what is it? Do you want me to pursue them? Well, the answer is, of course, yes. You see, Abraham had the freedom, because of God's promises, to pursue his loved one. We're different. We've been given the responsibility to pursue. Not the freedom, the responsibility, the directive. We've been told how and what, and it's ours. And so we've got to act. And so then it was, God, what's the first step? And I found this book. It's called Letters from a Skeptic. My dad was a skeptic at best, kind of more a hostile individual against faith. And I thought, okay, God, is that what you want me to do? And I really felt like he was saying yes. So God gave me, guess what? The first step in the plan. Abram had a plan. I'm not sure when he got the plan, but there was a step. And a lot of times God gives us the first step, but he doesn't give us the other steps in the plan. He just gives us enough to go pursue, be present. First step. We do that. We're faithful. We trust him. And then he's like, hey, guess what? I got another step for you. And he shows us. But we have to be committed to following the plan. And so I've got my letter here, my original letter that I wrote to my dad 23 years ago on his birthday. It was a birthday gift to him. How about that, huh? Dad, the best thing I could give you on your birthday is an explanation for why I believe so vehemently in the Lord Jesus and why I want you to as well. Will you just read this book with me and can we talk about it? So we wrote letters back and forth for months. And the conversations just got better and better, and I could hear God moving in the words that were being written. And so I wanted to engage in a battle, and I was trying to do it face to face, and God is like, no, Aaron, go away. Make some space. I'll bring you close, but I'll do it through writing. And out of the blue, a few months later, my dad calls and says, hey, Aaron, we're moving to Philomath. I'm like, whoa. They'd lived in Klamath Falls forever and didn't seem to want to move. And then I was like, all right, you come up here, because guess what? I'm like, Abram, I got allies up here. Living Faith Community Church is like the trees of Mamre. There's people there that are going to love you into the kingdom. And they came to our church and they experienced fellowship and the love of God for the first time. And I got to baptize my parents in a cattle trough right over there here in this church. Yeah. But it was because God won the victory in their life. He did it. I had to say yes. I had to be faithful. I had to believe. And I had to respond. And Carla, stop crying. Because you're going to make me cry. I love you, sister. And so what I want to do is I just want to give you some practical steps for you to be intentional in this. Because I feel like it's awful to say, go share Jesus with people, but not maybe give you some ways how to step into that. And I believe that Abram's approach in this battle actually shows us some ways. But I want to go through it step by step. Step by step. Who has God given me or you a burden for? Do you remember the messenger that came to Abraham? God provided a person to put Lot's name in Abraham's ear. Has someone around you brought up someone maybe that you haven't thought about in a long time? Have you bumped into someone you haven't seen for a while? Have you talked with someone and right away you've had a burden for them and you're not even sure really what it is? That could be a sign that God's like, hey, you may want to think about pursuing them. You may need to engage in the spiritual battle in this person's life. I mean, think about it. Lot was a stranger. If Abram doesn't go after him, who else will? Who else will? Who will tell them? And God has placed you perfectly to engage in the spiritual battle with the key relationships that He's given you in your life. Just like Abram was the one. I want to contend to you. God may be saying to you, no, you're the one. And it doesn't mean that today we make a raiding party with 318 others and we go over to their house, knock on the door, and hit them with the Bible. Okay, there is discernment required here. We have to listen to God. We have to pray. God, help me. Show me. Lead me. Let me hear from you in this process. Don't let me go ahead of you. Don't let me go in my pride. Don't let me make my own plan. I want yours. Should I pursue them? Yes. If God's put a burden for someone on your heart, it's most likely that He did that for a reason and you should pursue them. What does pursuit look like? Well, Abram just got close, right? He tracked them down and got close. I'm not even sure he knew what was going to happen when he got that close. But he got close. What does pursuit look like? How about just time together? Like, you don't have to preach at them when you're together. Maybe just spend some time, take a walk, talk about life, ask some questions. This is actually one of my favorite ways to hopefully engage in spiritual conversation with people, is just get together and bring God up. Because God has a way of, when you bring Him up, going, that's a pretty small space, but I can fit in it in a conversation because of who He is. And when you think about, should I pursue them, you might have to think more about these questions. Is fear holding me back? Abram wasn't afraid. He went. If he was afraid, he decided, I have more faith than fear, and he acted anyways. Am I apathetic? Man, this is one that at times my heart can get so hard. Have you ever looked at that person, and they're like in a bad situation, and you're like, yeah, that's bad. And, maybe you're talking with someone, and it's like, you look at them, and instead of going, man, they really need Jesus, you're like, hey, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And there's apathy, a hardness maybe towards their life and situation, because you're like, man, they got themselves into it. They can get themselves out of it. That's not how it works. What if Jesus thought that way about the woman caught in adultery? Good luck. Hope it works out. It would have been trouble. What about the guy on the cross next to him that cried out, Lord, remember me in your kingdom? Nah, it's too late for that. He didn't. He didn't. He never lost his compassion. Even at the last minute, with the weight of the world's sin on him, right here with the person next to him, he said, of course. Of course. All right, what's the first step? What's the first step in the plan? I don't know. I wish I knew the first step. It's not a formula. God has to reveal the first step to you. But guess what? You know that person and you know that situation better than anyone. And God is really creative. So ask him, God, is there a first step? This was my first step. I was at a bookstore and God gave it to me because I was thinking and praying, and he answered my prayers and gave me the first step in the plan. He can do that for you too. In Proverbs, it says, in the hearts of humans, they plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Guess what? If you get a little bit wrong, God will move your feet. He'll change the plan a little. You can trust him with that. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purposes that will prevail. So maybe ask yourself the question related to the plan, if you're kind of making a plan. Are you trying to control things? Or are you making decisions based on what the Lord's purposes are? And you know those purposes because you've looked at his word and you know it. You can trust him to reveal the plan. Who do I need to go with me? That's one sometimes we don't think about, right? But I was thinking about this friend of mine who is really working through addiction. I haven't faced the same struggle as him in this area. I just haven't. I've got plenty of my own that are different, but this one I just don't know about the way others might. So I can look around and I can go, who are my allies? Who's God placed in proximity to me that I know has experienced freedom from addiction, that might be able to help me, give me counsel, or even go with me in pursuit of this individual? Because God places us in community. So we can look for that person near us and go, hey, you know something about this. Can you come with me? Can you help me? I need the work that God has done in your life to be communicated to me, because it's a beautiful thing. And that person gets the blessing of being part of something amazing. Abram took 318 trained men. What were they trained in? Well, it wasn't farming, or it wouldn't mention that they're trained. Okay, these men had been trained in warfare or defenses of some kind. That's why he called on them. And so who do you know that you're like, hey, I see that person kind of fighting the spiritual battle sometimes. It seems like they know what they're doing. I need some time with you. Can you help me? Can you walk with me in this? I've got a person that I love and care about, and I want to go after them, but I want to do it God's way. Can you help me? I want to hear from the Lord. Maybe you've got some advice. Maybe you've got some experience. It's no surprise to some of you that I really like fishing. I've got a fish shirt on today even to proclaim it. The charm of fishing is that it is the pursuit of what is elusive but attainable, a perpetual series of occasions for hope. Who are my fishermen in here? Doesn't that kind of capture it? Like just a couple more miles. I know there's a fish around that rock, around that corner. right? To be honest with you, I feel like this is something that God just wired into me. And I hope, I think it's a good thing. Every time I have a conversation with a person, it comes to my mind, God has made us fishers of men. That is a perpetual occasion of perpetual hope there, where I'm hoping, is this the one, is this the conversation where God's going to work and I get to share Jesus with someone? I get to maybe be a testimony. I get to show God's love to them somehow, hoping that God will work there. And do I believe that even in a weird or strange situation? And will I walk in it because of it? Because that's who God is. And it's this crazy thing. It's the pursuit of the elusive. No, it's the pursuit of the impossible in the spiritual battle. We cannot win it. We cannot do it. But God can. And so it is a series of occasions for hope when we talk with people, when we meet with people. And Abram went in faith. We need to go in faith when we go. What is faith? What is faith? What's it say in Hebrews? It's hope for what's not seen, sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Right? We believe God wins battles. And even if the odds seem stacked against us, even if the situation seems like there's no way, if we believe, we can step into it and step forward and trust God to work. He's our protector. We don't have to be fearful. Guess what? Nothing may come of it. It may be a closed door. But what if? What if? So that'd be my final question to you, and I think this might be the hardest one. In those moments when we have opportunity, do I believe God can win a victory? Do I actually believe it? I'm going to be honest with you. When I was thinking about it and praying for my dad, I thought, man, that guy is so hard. That guy is so far from God. And there was times where people around me had to have faith because I wasn't seeing it or believing it. And yet God won the battle. God won the victory. Some of God's words to his people, Deuteronomy 20, 2-4. When you're about to go into battle, the priest shall come forward and address the army. He will say, "Hear, Israel, today you are going into battle against your enemies. Do not be faint-hearted or afraid. Do not panic. Do not be terrified by them. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies and give you victory." In this spiritual battle, that's who he is to us. He is the one who wins the victory. We can win nothing apart from him. I'm going to just leave that there. Who's God put on your heart? Who's he given you a burden for? And might today be the day that you step in to the battle. You engage, you pursue. You trust God. And you see him work. And you get to show his great love that he's shown you to someone else. And with intentionality, like I said, I'm amazed. When the church does this with intentionality, when it's a group, we love it. We love it, right? Like VBS. VBS. Isn't that kind of what that is? It's like, okay, we got a plan. We got a strategy. We're going to pursue kids. Here's the message. And we're all on board for it. We love the detail. We love the intentionality. Okay, we love the plan. It's so enjoyable. And yet, if it's just us, why is it different? Why is it different that way? I'm not sure it should be. And I just want to encourage you. I feel like God really wants you to walk in this. He wants me to walk in this. There are many people in Philomath that desperately need the Lord. Maybe God's put them on your heart. I just ask you to consider it and pursue them as he leads you and watch what he does. He specializes in recovery and redemption.